Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Beneath the Silence, Healing the Wounds of Betrayal Trauma. I'm your host, Sandy Joy, and I want to issue a warm welcome to all of you who may be here for the first time or may be here for the 38th time, as this is the 38th podcast, plus the bonus ones, I guess. This is a space for understanding, validation, and hope, as well as hopefully healing. I'm just want to remind you that I don't edit these podcasts. They are real, raw, authentic, and vulnerable. And I'm just going to point out, in case you're noticing my eyes may look a little dark, today I don't have makeup on because I have some black fly bites right in the corner that is made, looks like I have a black eye. And also another one right on my eyelid on this eye that has made it swell up and so on. It isn't spring fun. We have so many. So I didn't put any makeup on. So this is just me. And no, I didn't get punched in the eyes. I got bitten by the black flies. So in today's episode, what I'm going to be talking about is something that often goes unrecognized, as many things in betrayal trauma does, and is often unnamed, again, as many things in betrayal trauma are. And this is grief and loss. So betrayal trauma isn't just about the shock of the deceit and being deceived. It's also about the deep grief of what has been lost trust, lost identity, lost future dreams. So today I'm going to explore how grief shows up in betrayal trauma and how to navigate its complement or complicated layers. So, because betrayal trauma is not just about, and I shouldn't say just, it's not always focused on about what happened. It's about everything else as well, including what has been lost. And many people don't realize that they're actually grieving through this painful process and how much grief there is. You may feel sad and are unsure why. You may feel angry, but also deeply hurt. You may feel confused, like something is missing. And if that's you, I want you to know that you're grieving. And it's okay. It's okay. There has been a tremendous amount of loss. So today we're going to explore what grief looks like in betrayal trauma, how it differs from traditional grief, the layers of loss, how grief shows up, and the ways to gently move through it. Okay, one baby step at a time. So let's understand grief and betrayal trauma first. So it's not always about death. We tend to think grief is about death. And it may be in this stream as in death of the relationship as you knew it. Um, although it may feel as though, the perpetrator, the person you thought you knew, the perpetrator of the betrayal has died and the person, remaining is a stranger. So there may feel like there is death, but not in the traditional sense of what death means. Okay. So, but this grief, this loss is about the deep, earth-shattering loss of safety, of trust, of identity, pardon me, of reality, of faith. There is so many things that I'm sure you can add, half a dozen more to that list because it's not it's not one that's just encapsulated in a few. That list can be endless. So, and this is also an ambiguous loss. And this is described, ambiguous loss is described by Pauline Boss as it occurs when something is lost, but is still present. So this may even be if you have found if you're a parent who is estranged from a child or children. It's an ambiguous loss. Pardon me, one that is not always recognized by society or by family, friends, regardless of how supportive they are. They haven't experienced it. They may not get it. Okay. So when something is lost but still present, this creates a level of, and a deep level of confusion, a lack of closure that this ended, a person died, they are no more, rather than now that the person is living, but we have no contact, or we don't have discussions, or the person I thought I knew doesn't really exist. So the reality is all changed, you know? So confusion, lack of closure, ongoing emotional pain. And as we've discussed, that is, I'm going to apologize. I don't know why. And this happens often for me. And I don't know why at the beginning of a podcast, I start to yawn. Got to figure that out. I don't think it's nervousness because I'm prepared. I'm ready to talk about it. I know what I'm talking about. Maybe it's because it's later in the day when I'm doing some recordings. And maybe that's what I need to do recordings earlier in the day. Maybe that's it. Because it's, pardon me, almost 5 o'clock p.m. And I'm just, I think I try to get some things done and paperwork done. And then it's like, okay, I'll record and then I can upload and schedule it to go. And maybe that's what it is. So I apologize. Okay. So how is this different? How is this grief different from traditional grief? So grief and betrayal trauma is ongoing. And it doesn't mean that traditional grief stops because quite honestly, it doesn't. We learn to grow around it. And that's what we end up doing in this grief as well. But what I mean by ongoing is that if the betrayal is ongoing, then there's no closure to the grief. The grief remains ongoing because as the betrayal grows, the grief grows. The grief in betrayal trauma is complicated. It's often without closure. There is no formality, there can be a divorce, a separation, a divorce, but that person is still alive. And if you have children or grandchildren, you will still see that person the odd time, not every day, not in your home, et cetera, et cetera. So you may still see that person, but the relationship you thought you had is no longer. That relationship is gone. That relationship has died. So some have described it, as I said, as that the relationship has died. And in very real truth, the relationship you once had will never be again. For some, it can be better if there is recovery and repair, but it will never be what it once was. It will always be different. And that can mean better, or it can mean it's over. it's worse. It is possible to have a new Is it possible to have a new relationship with the perpetrator? Yes. I have bared witness to that. Not in my own life, but in others. If the perpetrator is willing and able to follow their own healing journey of recovery and then repair and have new connections, new connections can be made. And this is what we mean by atonement. That is their recovery. And in the recovery, there's atonement, there's accountability. And then the repair is the attunement. And that is trying to connect back without being defensive, without adding buts. That is having 100% honesty, 100% transparency. That is having empathy without that defensiveness. And it's also without rushing the survivor to heal, to forgive. The survivor never needs to forgive if they don't want to. They, and that's not a component of being able to attune. And then to have healthy attachment. And that's that connection. But that connection, that healthy attachment, will not happen without atonement and attunement. Guaranteed. That I can promise you. So, what are the layers of loss? You may be grieving, like I mentioned, the loss of relationship as you knew it, the loss of the person you thought you knew, the loss of trust in others, including the perpetrator, but also in yourself, the loss of reality as you thought you knew it, the loss of your identity and self-image, as well as how you view or viewed the perpetrator. It's also your worldview. Your worldview may not feel as safe. It's a loss of safety in that case. It's maybe a loss of community and support network. Those people who you thought were supportive were in your circle, and you've learned through this process that they aren't. It's loss of future plans and dreams, which is loss of hope, loss of faith, whether that's spiritually, emotionally, religiously, whatever that looks like for you. But the truth is, you're not grieving just one thing. You're grieving many components at one time. That's ongoing. So how does grief manifest? Emotionally, in our emotions, so our sadness, our anger, our confusion, even numbness. It's in the physical, fatigue, health issues, changes in appetite. And that's either, eating more than you would or eating less than you normally would, but can also be eating the same, but eating things that you normally wouldn't eat, like much more unhealthy food, junk food, if you will, because you're so exhausted, it's easier to pick up a burger than to make a salad at home, or to grill some chicken or whatever the case may be. Physical is sleep disruption, a lot less sleep or maybe a lot more sleep, but it doesn't mean it's rest-filled sleep. Okay? A lot more tension from head to the tips of your toes. Tension, pain, uncomfortableness. Grief manifests in the cognitive. Remuneration or remuneration. It's replaying events over and over and over. It's activation, triggers. It's self-blame. It's questioning our reality. It's questioning what's real and what isn't real. It's questioning what's true and what isn't true. because we don't know anymore. It's that confusion. It's also difficulty focusing, or at times being hyper focused in one area or another because we're trying to escape. As described by Besser van der Kolk and as well as by Bat Rothschild, trauma lives in the body. Therefore, grief is not just emotional, it is physical. So Besser van der Kolk is the body remembers, and Babette Rothschild is the body remembers. Bessel van der Kolk is the body keeps the score. Okay. So what can we do? What can we do for ourselves? What are some healthy grieving practices? Number one, it's naming the losses. It's what exactly are you grieving in any given moment? And maybe it's grieving loss of self as you knew self. Maybe it's grieving the relationship you thought you knew. Maybe it's grieving dreams. Maybe it's grieving trust, loss of trust. Give yourself examples. Name the grief or loss in the moment, because that will help you understand what you're experiencing. It will help you understand in a better way. Knowledge is power. The more you know, the more that knowing grows. Give yourself grace in what you're going through. And another healthy grieving practice is allow your emotions. Don't try to stifle them, push them away. Now, maybe you're activated in the grocery store. Is it safe for you to break down crying in the grocery store and having many people, strangers, be looking at you? No, but it may be okay to leave your cart or to compartmentalize as best you can until you're through the checkout and you get to your car, and then let it go. Not let it go as in we cut the ribbon and we don't experience it again, because that doesn't happen. We have to move through it. It's when I'm saying let it go, it's let it out. Let it out wherever you feel safe to do so. Even if you have to schedule on a daily basis or a few times a week to allow yourself to experience the emotions that you've been experiencing, whatever they are. And give yourself time. So whether that's 30 minutes or an hour or whatever it is, and this is your time to release, you will thank yourself for it. That, again, I can promise you, releasing is always a healing activity, a healing thing. And remember not to rush yourself through your emotions. Give yourself permission to feel without judgment. Another healing practice is about having rituals for whatever closure that you can get or you can give yourself. The relationship as you known it is no longer. How might you be able to close that off? Maybe you're going to write a letter to that previous self, to the old relationship. What it meant to you, what it means now. If you're not a writer, maybe you're going to write words. You can use your fist. It's okay. Write words that just come out of you. Don't think about it. Just allow your body to process. Draw in whatever color you want to draw. And it doesn't have to look like anything. You don't have to draw a person or a place or, anything. like that at all. Just let your body express. And it may be drawing through color. What color? Don't think about it. Put colors in front of you. Close your eyes and let your hand pick. Your body knows what it needs. Read if writing isn't a thing, but maybe drawing or coloring is. Practice releasing activities. Writing a word on a paper or what things you want to release and burn them safely outside or in a fireplace if you have a wood fireplace, or use a barbecue lighter or something like that and or a candle and safely burn. You can put the candle in the sink and burn a piece of paper in the sink, or again, I always like outside. And it's about letting go of the idea of what was. It's releasing it. So remember when I say letting go, I'm not mean cutting the cord, cutting the ribbon, and there, it's gone. I'm done. We have to move through it. So when I'm saying letting go, I mean releasing in whatever way works for you. And practice what that is. Have a ritual for yourself of what that might mean. And then create symbolic activities of these releasing activities, but also about those, create activities about bringing forth towards you what you need. You need safety. Maybe you create a vision board and it doesn't have to be big. Maybe it's on an 8 by 10, piece of paper that you get stuff off the internet and print them and just tape them or glue them to this piece of paper of, what safety looks like for you, what hope looks like for you. What are dreams for yourself in the future that has nothing to do with anybody else, perpetrator or anyone? These are things for you. So this is ways to move through and take baby steps in your healing journey while you're doing it. Okay. Another healthy ritual is seek out support and seek trauma informed. If it's going to be by, a therapist, a counselor, or a coach, make sure that they are trauma informed around not only betrayal trauma, but the grief that exists in betrayal trauma, because that matters. There may be support groups, around betrayal trauma, specifically to what you've experienced. I'm going to talk about one in just a moment, or when we end. I'm going to talk about one that I'm in the planning stages of forming. Maybe it's seeking support is through spiritual guidance, and maybe that's walking in nature or being in the water or near water, or maybe that is, speaking to a religious clergy, if that is part of your faith and your spirituality. It's whatever that looks like for you. There's no wrong way of seeking that support. And that support can even come from family and friends that have showed you they are supportive. That helps in our healing as well. And we also have to remember about giving ourselves grace, because grief is not linear. It comes in waves and cycles. So understanding that grief and betrayal trauma may cycle back during anniversaries or activations, triggers. Okay. And I'm going to give you a real life example of how I navigated grief after betrayal. Because I questioned not only who I was as a person, but I questioned who I was as a woman, as a therapist at that time. And I felt very hypocritical because here I was helping women who had been abused, intimate partner violence, rape, sexual assault. And here I was experiencing the same things and didn't recognize it in what I was experiencing. Betrayal, trauma, blindness. It's giving yourself grace. So I have a story, my story, in a book called Life After Loss. And it's authored by Catherine Kenwell. Not so you have to go buy it. Um, I'm under an assumed name in it for the protection of my children. And but I entitled mine Giving Birth to Myself because throughout my healing journey, that's what I felt I did was I gave birth to a whole new Sandy. I didn't realize how wrapped up in everyone else I was that I didn't know who I was. So I had to find who I was. I had to investigate. I had to explore. I had to bring awareness. And it felt like I gave birth to a whole new me, a me that I could respect and accept and love. And that was so, so important. And then the icing on the cake, if you will, of that realization and that journey of grieving everything that I had lost to giving birth to myself was the name change. Joy used to be my middle name, the name my mother gave me, Sandra Joy. And you see, my father was abusive. And then my husband. And I did not want to be associated with an abuser. I wanted, in this giving birth to myself, I wanted me. And my name, the name my mother gifted me with, was the culmination of that birth, the icing on the cake, so to speak. So Joy became my last name legally. And if the government had made me choose a different last name that I had to keep a middle name, I would have chosen my mother's maiden name because I was very close to my aunts and uncles on my mother's side, especially. And so much so that one of those uncles was like a surrogate father for me. And he was a bachelor and he was wonderful. And I loved him dearly. And but I didn't have to. I didn't have to. I could just choose the name that my mother gifted me with. And that's important to remember. How do you find your identity? And I talked to my son about this, and he said, Mom, you do you, whatever works for you. And I needed to make this. I was going to regardless, because this was a decision I was making for myself. But that was part of how I navigated the grief. I gave birth to myself, and I named me, my name, the name my mom gave me. So this is important for you to remember. when you're grieving and going through this, you are not too emotional. You're grieving. There's so much loss, so much loss. And grief is not a sign of weakness. It's a natural response to profound loss. And it's a sign that something mattered. So there's 5 takeaways from today. I couldn't just say 3. Usually it's 3. I do like to do things in 3, but there's 5 today. Grief and betrayal trauma is about multi-layered losses, multiple forms of loss. It is often ambiguous and ongoing. Naming and validating your losses is very critical in your healing journey. Healing involves allowing, not rushing, grief. And grieving in healthy ways creates space for eventual rebuilding and renewed hope, for reclaiming yourself. So I want to thank you for joining me today on Beneath the Silence, Healing the Wounds of Betrayal Trauma. Remember that healing is possible, even from the deepest, darkest pit of despair and the deepest wounds. If this episode resonated with you, please let me know. I'd really, really value it if you let me know. Leave a comment or send me an email, sandy@sandrajoy.ca. If you would like more resources or support, you can visit me at sandrajoy.ca. And of course, anyone interested in my betrayal trauma course can also find that on my website. And I am still in the planning stages, and I need to get out more information about the retreat. I haven't heard from anybody who's interested yet. So at this point, it may end up being in May, end of May of 2027. But I will keep you updated. But the other thing I am working on that will be a new resource for you is my private Facebook group. And there will be a link on my website. However, I also just want you to know that what I am planning on calling it is it's going to be a private group. Okay, so you'll have to, if you want to join, you will have to be approved. This is hopefully ways of not having bots in, in the group. I'm going to try to do its best because, we want privacy. But the group is going to be called Reclaiming Self from Misery to Momentum for women who have experienced betrayal trauma. And especially for those who their betrayal trauma is caused from partners with addiction, whether to porn and or sex. And why is that? Is that I am finding there is so many, it's an epidemic itself. Not to say that women who have experienced betrayal trauma from other avenues cannot join. You will be able to. So I'm going to start the group. And the other thing I'm working on is an 8 to 12 week course that you go at your own pace on the healing journey. Things to do from the beginning to the end to reclaiming yourself that may help you save money in therapy. And as part of that course, we will have weekly question and answer periods with me. So depending on how many people join, at first it may be an hour, and then it may go to an hour and a half. And if you're taking the course, then it's free for you. If other people want to join the group that I will have weekly, it is free if you're taking the course. And if others want to be involved in that weekly group, aside from Facebook, which will be free, um, then there will be a cost, and I'm trying to figure out what that cost will be. But it'll be question and answers that you may have about what you're learning, what you're going through, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So that's in the works. Hopefully within the next few weeks, that will be live and we'll go from there. I will do a little reel to on YouTube to say when it is, when it has gone live. Okay. And if you're able, again, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, like and share the podcasts so that others may learn and find community. You will find or well, what I will find or others will find, it will up the algorithm so it makes it easier for others to be able to find this information on betrayal trauma. And remember, I do not get paid for any of this at all. Okay. So please join me next week as I do a deep dive into the role of community and supportive family and friends in your healing journey. This conversation matters and is very important. Why? Because you matter and you're very important. So until next time, take gentle care of yourself and please remember, I see you, I hear you, and I believe you. Until we meet again. Thank you.